The Silent Watchers. Complete HFY story. The Forgotten Station. The ice moon Callisto hung in Jupiter's shadow like a forgotten pearl, its frozen surface scarred by ancient impacts and cosmic radiation. Deep within one of its largest craters sat Research Station Erebus, a cluster of pressurized domes connected by reinforced tunnels. The station's lights glowed faintly against the eternal darkness, a tiny beacon of human presence in the vast emptiness of space. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the observation window, watching Jupiter's great red storm swirl in the distance. She was 43 years old with sharp black eyes that seemed to calculate everything they saw. Her official title was Chief Astrophysicist, but that was just what the record said. The truth was buried deep in classified files that most people would never see. Behind her, Marcus Webb checked the environmental controls, his weathered hands moving across the console with practiced ease. He was the station's chief engineer, or so the paperwork claimed. In reality, Marcus had spent 20 years in the Earth Defense Force's demolitions unit, blowing up enemy installations across 3 star systems before he supposedly retired. The station housed 16 people in total. There was Dr. James Park, the biologist who never talked about his decade in military intelligence. Lieutenant Nina Volkov, the communications officer whose real specialty was electronic warfare. Tom Richardson, the maintenance worker who could assemble a plasma rifle blindfolded. Every single person on Erebus had a secret past, and they had all chosen this remote posting for the same reason: to escape the wars they had fought and the things they had done. Sarah turned from the window. "Marcus, what's the status on the deep space array?" "All green," Marcus replied without looking up. "We're tracking everything within 10 million kilometers. Nothing unusual out there except rocks and radiation." That changed exactly 4 minutes later. Nina's voice cracked over the intercom, urgent but controlled. "Commander Chen, we have contacts. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Distance 8 million kilometers and closing." Sarah's relaxed posture vanished instantly. She moved to the command center with swift, efficient steps. The others followed without being called, old instincts kicking in. Within 90 seconds, all 16 crew members had assembled, their faces serious and alert. The main display showed 5 massive vessels, their designs unlike anything in human databases. The ships were angular and aggressive, covered in what looked like organic armor plating. They moved with clear purpose, arranging themselves in an attack formation around the station. "IFF signals?" Sarah asked quietly. "None," Nina responded. "They're not broadcasting any identification. Computer doesn't recognize the hull configuration. These aren't human ships, and they're not from any known friendly species." James studied the sensor data, his analytical mind working through possibilities. "Those weapon signatures, they're powering up plasma cannons, big ones. Enough firepower to vaporize this entire station in one salvo." The crew exchanged glances. No panic, no fear. Just professionals assessing a tactical situation. Sarah made her decision. "All right, people. Protocol Omega. Marcus, take your team and prep the surprises we installed last year. Nina, start recording everything and prepare the burst transmission to Earth. James, I need you running tactical from Station 2. Tom, get your people to weapons lockers Alpha through Delta. What about making contact?" asked Dr. Lisa Martinez, the station's physician and former combat medic. "Maybe they're just lost or looking for help?" As if in answer, the alien ships opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space, striking Erebus's outer domes. Explosions ripped through the agricultural section, venting precious atmosphere into the void. Alarms shrieked throughout the station as hull breaches registered on every monitor. But Sarah had expected this. The agricultural dome was deliberately placed on the station's perimeter, designed to absorb the first attack. The real critical systems were buried deep within Callisto's ice, protected by hundreds of meters of frozen rock. "Damage report," Sarah commanded calmly. "Outer ring destroyed," Marcus called out. "Hydroponics gone, storage modules compromised. But all personnel were already evacuated. 0 casualties. Primary systems unaffected." The alien ships moved closer, clearly pleased with their opening strike. They probably thought the battle was already won. A small human research station, lightly armed and far from help, should have been easy prey. They had no idea what they were really facing. Sarah watched the tactical display as the alien vessels deployed boarding craft. 12 small ships detached from the main fleet, streaking toward Erebus like predatory birds. They would punch through the weakened hull and send soldiers inside to finish the job. "Let them come," Sarah said softly. "Nina, kill all external communications. I want them to think we're panicking and helpless. Marcus, are the presents ready?" "Ready and waiting, Commander." The crew moved through the station with quiet efficiency. They sealed bulkheads, activated hidden weapon systems, and took up positions that had been carefully planned and rehearsed over months of drills that everyone pretended were just safety exercises. Tom Richardson crouched in a darkened corridor, checking his modified plasma rifle. Beside him, 3 others from the maintenance crew waited in silence. They weren't afraid. They had been in worse situations before, fought harder battles, survived things that would give civilians nightmares. The first alien boarding craft hit the station's hull with a metallic crunch. Cutting torches flared bright as they burned through the exterior plating. Tom watched on his helmet display as the aliens breached the airlock and poured inside. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with forearms and armor that looked grown rather than manufactured. Their weapons hummed with contained energy. They moved like soldiers, disciplined and alert, sweeping the corridors with tactical precision. Tom counted 12 aliens in the first group. They advanced carefully, checking corners and doorways. Professional, dangerous, but also predictable. He waited until they reached the intersection where 3 corridors met. Then he pressed the detonator. The floor beneath the aliens erupted in a controlled explosion. It wasn't enough to breach the hull or cause catastrophic damage, but it was more than enough to send the alien soldiers tumbling into the hidden pit below. Heavy blast doors slammed shut above them, trapping them in a reinforced holding cell. "First group secured," Tom reported calmly. 12 hostiles contained without casualties. In another section, Nina and James watched as aliens cut through a bulkhead, expecting to find frightened scientists. Instead, they found an empty room with a single console displaying a message in multiple languages. "You picked the wrong station." Before the aliens could react, automated defense turrets dropped from concealed ceiling panels. The plasma weapons fired in synchronized bursts, catching the invaders in a devastating crossfire. It was over in seconds. The alien commander aboard the lead warship watched in growing confusion as his boarding teams disappeared one by one. Life signs vanished. Communication channels went silent. The humans weren't running or surrendering. They were fighting back with unexpected skill and coordination. More boarding craft launched. The commander sent 40 soldiers this time, determined to overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers. Marcus Webb waited for them in the reactor section. The massive fusion core hummed with barely contained power, its magnetic field strong enough to tear metal apart. The aliens burst through the doors, weapons ready, and found themselves face to face with a single human in an engineer's jumpsuit. Marcus smiled at them. Then he activated the electromagnetic pulse he had been preparing. The EMP didn't affect the hardened human equipment, but the aliens' organic tech weapons and armor went dead instantly. Their systems crashed, their communications failed, and they suddenly found themselves trapped in a room with a very angry human who knew exactly where every piece of heavy equipment was stored. Across the station, similar scenes played out. The crew of Erebus used every advantage they had: knowledge of the terrain, carefully prepared traps, and years of combat experience that their official records never mentioned. The aliens had numbers and firepower, but the humans had something more valuable. They were fighting on their own ground, and they knew every inch of it. Sarah watched from the command center as the alien casualties mounted. Her face remained impassive, but inside she felt the old familiar focus that came from combat. She had commanded special operations teams through campaigns that most people didn't even know had happened. This was just another battle, another enemy that had made the mistake of underestimating humanity. "Status," she called out. 73 alien soldiers neutralized, James reported. 26 captured, the rest eliminated. We have 4 wounded on our side, all minor. Fleet is already treating them. Enemy fleet positioning. They're pulling back. The boarding operation failed, and they know it. They're regrouping at maximum weapons range. Sarah studied the display. The aliens were learning, adapting. That was dangerous. Stupid enemies were easy to predict. Smart ones were harder to kill. They'll try orbital bombardment next, she predicted. Heavy weapons, maximum firepower. They'll try to crack this station like an egg. Can we survive that? Nina asked. Sarah looked at her crew, these warriors who had disguised themselves as scientists and engineers. We've survived worse. But we need to buy time. Earth got our distress signal 30 minutes ago. Help is coming, but it'll take hours to arrive. Marcus checked his displays. The station can take some punishment. We built it tough. But if they really commit to destroying us, we'll have maybe 2 hours before the core systems fail. Then we make those 2 hours count, Sarah said firmly. Prepare Phase 2. It's time to remind these aliens why you don't pick fights with humans. The crew moved to their stations, ready for whatever came next. Outside, in the cold vacuum of space, the alien fleet prepared its weapons. They thought they were facing a desperate last stand. They had no idea the fight was just beginning. The hunter becomes the hunted. The alien commander's name was Throcknall, and he was beginning to feel something he had rarely experienced in his long military career: doubt. His fleet had conquered 47 systems for the Vactor Collective. He had destroyed enemy strongholds, crushed rebellions, and eliminated threats to his people's expansion. This should have been simple. A small human outpost far from any support should have fallen within an hour. Instead, he had lost 93 soldiers and gained nothing but questions. Throcknall studied the tactical display, trying to understand what had gone wrong. The station's official records showed 16 civilian researchers studying Jupiter's radiation patterns. Harmless scientists. Easy targets. But the humans who fought back had moved like elite soldiers, fought with military precision, and turned their research station into a death trap. Communications, he ordered. Contact the station. I want to speak with whoever is in command. On Erebus, Nina picked up the incoming signal. She looked at Sarah, who nodded. The main screen flickered to life, showing Throcknall's angular face and 4 gleaming eyes. When he spoke, the translator converted his clicking speech into harsh English. Human Commander. I am Throcknall of the Vactor Collective. You have fought well, but you cannot win. Surrender now, and I will allow your people to live as prisoners. Refuse and we will reduce your station to atoms. Sarah stepped into view of the camera. She looked tired, her face smudged with soot from the earlier fighting, but her eyes were steady and cold. I am Commander Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Force Special Operations. You attacked a human station without provocation. You killed our facilities and tried to murder civilians. That was your first mistake. Throcknall's translator struggled with her tone, but the meaning was clear enough. You are civilians. Our records say whatever we wanted them to say, Sarah interrupted. You want to know what we really are? We're the people Earth sends when normal soldiers aren't enough. We're the ones who do the impossible jobs in the places nobody talks about. And you just walked into our home. She leaned closer to the camera. Here's what's going to happen, Throcknall. You're going to turn your ships around and leave. Because if you don't, we're going to hurt you so badly that your entire collective will learn to fear human space. For a moment, Throcknall said nothing. Then he made a gesture that might have been laughter. Brave words from someone about to die. We have 5 warships. You have a damaged station. Mathematics is not on your side. Mathematics, Sarah replied calmly, has a way of surprising people who don't understand all the variables. She cut the transmission. Marcus looked at her with raised eyebrows. That was either very brave or very stupid, Commander. Probably both, Sarah admitted. But we needed to buy time and plant doubt. Now he's wondering what other surprises we have hidden. Nina, how long until the cavalry arrives? Earth fleet is burning hard toward us. Best estimate 90 minutes, then we hold for 90 minutes. Show them what we can do. The alien fleet opened fire with their main batteries. Massive plasma bolts hammered into Erebus, each impact carrying enough energy to vaporize steel. The station's shields flared and buckled under the assault. Warning lights blazed red across every console, but Sarah and her crew had spent 2 years preparing for exactly this scenario. The station's most critical systems weren't in the exposed domes that the aliens were destroying. They were buried deep in Callisto's ice, protected by natural shielding that could absorb punishment no human-made armor could match. Surface structures at 40%, Marcus reported. But the core is holding. They're destroying empty rooms and sacrificial systems, Sarah nodded. Good, let them waste ammunition. James, are the mining charges ready? James Park looked up from his console, a thin smile on his face. All 73 charges are in position, just waiting for your word. Before retiring to Erebus, James had spent 15 years in Earth's most classified intelligence division. His specialty was thinking 3 moves ahead, predicting enemy actions and preparing surprises that nobody saw coming. 2 years ago, he had proposed a crazy idea. What if they turned Callisto itself into a weapon? The moon's surface was covered in ancient ice, some of it billions of years old. James had spent months carefully placing mining charges across the crater surrounding Erebus. Not to mine anything, but to create something much more useful. Now, Sarah ordered. James pressed the button. 73 simultaneous explosions ripped through Callisto's ice. The charges had been positioned with mathematical precision, calculated to fracture the surface in exactly the right way. Billions of tons of ice and rock erupted into space, creating an instant debris field around the station. The alien ships moving in for their bombardment suddenly found themselves flying through a cloud of house-sized ice chunks moving at high velocity. Their shields flared as impacts hammered their hulls. One ship took a direct hit from a particularly large fragment, the ice punching through weakened armor and causing catastrophic systems failures. Throcknall watched in shock as one of his warships went dark, its engines dead, atmosphere venting from multiple breaches. The humans had just turned a moon into a weapon. "Evasive maneuvers," he roared. "Pull back to safe distance." The fleet retreated, their formation broken, their confidence shaken. One ship was crippled, another showed heavy damage, and they still hadn't managed to destroy the human station. Inside Erebus, the crew allowed themselves a moment of celebration. Tom Richardson laughed out loud, the tension of the past hours finally breaking. Did you see their faces? They had no idea what hit them. But Sarah remained focused. That bought us time, but we're not safe yet. They'll regroup and try something different. Nina, any response from Earthfleet? Affirmative, Commander. I'm receiving a transmission now. Oh wow, it's Admiral Zhao herself. The screen flickered to life again, this time showing an older Asian woman with steel-gray hair and the stars of an Earth Defense Force admiral on her uniform. Admiral Catherine Zhao had commanded humanity's fleets for 15 years, earning a reputation as someone who never lost a battle and never abandoned her people. "Commander Chen," Zhao said without preamble, "we received your distress signal and we're coming in hot. ETA 70 minutes. Can you hold?" "We'll hold, Admiral," Sarah replied with certainty. "But there's something you should know. These aliens, the Vactor Collective, they didn't stumble onto us by accident. This was planned. They had detailed information about our station's supposed capabilities and crew." Zhao's expression darkened. "Intelligence leak? Possibly. Or they've been watching human space longer than we thought. Either way, this wasn't a random raid. This was a test. A test we're going to make them fail," Zhao said grimly. "Hold your position, Commander. We're bringing 3 battlecruisers and a full carrier group. These aliens are about to learn what happens when you attack humanity." The transmission ended. Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same determination she felt reflected in their faces. They were tired, wounded, running low on ammunition. But they were still fighting, still standing, still defiant. Marcus pulled up new sensor data. "Commander, the aliens are moving again, but this is strange. They're not coming at us. They're repositioning, like they're expecting something." "They are expecting something," James said quietly, his intelligence training giving him insight into enemy thinking. "They're expecting reinforcements." They called for backup. As if confirming his words, new contacts appeared on the sensor display. 10 more ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, these ones even larger than the first group. The Vactor Collective was committing serious resources to destroy one small station. Nina did quick calculations. Combined fleet strength, 15 warships, multiple support vessels. Total firepower. She trailed off, the numbers speaking for themselves. Sarah studied the display, her tactical mind working through scenarios. They couldn't survive a concentrated assault from 15 warships. Even buried in Callisto's ice, even with all their tricks and traps, they would be overwhelmed eventually. But they didn't need to win. They just needed to survive long enough for Earth's fleet to arrive. "All hands," Sarah announced over the station-wide intercom. "This is Commander Chen. We have hostile reinforcements incoming. The situation is about to get worse. But I want every single one of you to remember something. We are Earth Defense Force. We don't break. We don't surrender. We hold the line no matter what. 70 minutes. That's all we need. 70 minutes and the Admiral arrives with enough firepower to send these aliens running home to whatever hole they crawled out of. She paused, then added, "You've all fought harder battles than this. You've all survived impossible situations. This is just one more time. One more mission. And when it's over, we're going to have one hell of a story to tell." Across the station, 16 people prepared for the fight of their lives. They checked weapons, reinforced positions, made peace with whatever gods they believed in. They were afraid, certainly. Only fools felt no fear. But they were also determined, experienced, and absolutely unwilling to give up. The alien fleet began its approach, weapons glowing with deadly energy. On Erebus, the defenders waited in darkness, ready to show these invaders exactly why humanity had survived every threat the galaxy had thrown at them. The real battle was about to begin when humanity answers the 15 vector. Warships advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready to deliver overwhelming destruction. Thrucknall had learned caution from his earlier mistakes, but he had also learned anger. These humans had embarrassed him, cost him ships and soldiers, defied his ultimatums. Now, with reinforcements arrived, he would demonstrate the true power of the Vactor Collective. "All vessels," he commanded, "concentrate fire on the station's core. Maximum power. I want nothing left but atoms and regret." The combined fleet opened fire. The space around Erebus lit up like a miniature sun as hundreds of plasma bolts converged on the station. The sheer amount of energy being poured into that single point was enough to vaporize a small city. Inside Erebus, the defenders felt the station shake as if a giant had grabbed it and started rattling it like a toy. Systems overloaded. Bulkheads cracked. Emergency alerts screamed from every speaker. Shields failing. Marcus shouted over the din. Hull temperature rising fast. We're taking critical damage to sections 7 through 12. Sarah gripped her console as another massive impact nearly threw her to the floor. Seal those sections. Reroute power from life support to structural integrity fields. How long can we last? At this rate, maybe 20 minutes before the core systems collapse. 20 minutes. Earth's fleet was still 50 minutes away. The mathematics were brutally simple. They couldn't win this fight. But Sarah Chen hadn't survived 2 decades of impossible missions by accepting what mathematics told her. She had survived by finding solutions that others missed, by thinking beyond the obvious, by refusing to quit even when logic said she should. "James," she called out, "you said these aliens are testing us, right? Learning about human capabilities?" "That's my assessment," James confirmed, hanging onto his station as another barrage struck home. "This much firepower for one small station suggests they want to see how we fight, what our technology can do. Then let's teach them something they won't forget. Nina, can you hack into their communications network?" Nina's fingers flew across her console even as sparks rained from damaged systems above her. "I've been monitoring their channels since they arrived. Their encryption is tough, but yeah, I can get in. What do you need?" "I need to send them a message. Not words, data. I want every alien ship in that fleet to receive a full download of Earth's military history. Every major battle, every victory, every time humanity faced impossible odds and won anyway." Tom Richardson looked at her with understanding dawning on his face. "You're trying to scare them." "I'm trying to make them think," Sarah corrected. "They committed 15 warships to destroy 16 people. What happens when they face Earth's full military? When thousands of ships, millions of soldiers come for revenge? I want them to question whether destroying us is worth the price they'll pay." Nina worked furiously, breaking through alien firewalls and security protocols. "I'm in, sending the package now. Every ship is receiving—" "Wait, they're opening the files. Their command network is accessing the data." On Thrucknall's flagship, warning alarms suddenly blared. His communications officer looked up in shock. "Commander, we're being hacked. The humans are transmitting massive amounts of data directly into our systems. Block it," Thrucknall ordered. "Shut down all incoming." "Too late, Commander. The data is already in our computers. It's historical records, battle reports, visual documentation of human warfare." Despite himself, Thrucknall opened the files. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Battle of Europa, where 3,000 human soldiers held a position against 20,000 enemy combatants for 14 days straight. The Siege of Titan, where a single human commander orchestrated a defense so brilliant that it was still studied in military academies across known space. The Mars Rebellion, where Earth's forces crushed an uprising that should have succeeded. doing it with such overwhelming force that no one had dared rebel since. But it wasn't just the victories that disturbed Throcknell. It was the pattern. Humanity didn't just win battles. They learned from every conflict, adapted to every enemy, and came back stronger each time. They were relentless, innovative, and absolutely unwilling to accept defeat. And these 16 people on the station below? According to the records, they were veterans of some of humanity's most classified operations. The missions that were so dangerous, so important, that their details remained sealed decades later. Throcknell realized with growing horror that he hadn't been testing humanity. He had been poking a sleeping predator. "Commander," his tactical officer reported nervously, "I'm detecting new contacts. Multiple ships entering the system at high velocity." "The human reinforcements?" "Yes, Commander, but the energy signatures. These aren't normal patrol vessels. These are frontline warships. 3 battlecruisers, 1 fleet carrier, and multiple destroyer escorts. They're burning toward us at maximum combat speed." Throcknell watched the tactical display as Earth's response fleet materialized like avenging angels. The lead battlecruiser was massive, easily twice the size of his largest warship, bristling with enough weapons to level a continent. He pulled up the identification data on the flagship and felt his confidence crumble completely. The EDS Retribution, commanded by Admiral Catherine Zhao. Even the Vactor Collective knew that name. Zhao was a legend in multiple star systems, famous for never losing a battle and infamous for her absolute ruthlessness when defending human lives. "We need to withdraw," Throcknell said quietly. His weapons officer protested. "Commander, we have superior numbers. 15 ships against their 6. Did you not see the same historical data I did?" Throcknell snapped. "Those humans on that station have cost us 2 ships and over 100 soldiers. 16 people did that. Now we face an actual battle fleet commanded by one of humanity's greatest military minds, and you think numbers matter?" He made his decision. "All ships, cease fire. Begin withdrawal to jump coordinates. We're leaving." But Admiral Zhao had other plans. The human fleet didn't slow down or hail the Vactor ships. They simply opened fire at maximum range with weapons that made the alien plasma cannons look like children's toys. Railgun rounds moving at relativistic speeds crossed the distance in seconds, slamming into alien shields with devastating force. "Evasive action," Throcknell screamed, but it was too late for some of his fleet. 2 Vactor destroyers exploded in brilliant fireballs as the railgun rounds punched straight through their shields and hulls. A 3rd ship lost its engines and went spinning into space, dead in the water. The human carrier launched waves of fighters, small craft that swarmed around the alien vessels like angry hornets. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Throcknell's ships scattered, each captain desperately trying to reach minimum safe distance for faster-than-light jump. 3 more vessels died before they could escape, torn apart by human weapons that seemed to ignore shields and armor entirely. Inside Erebus, the crew watched the alien fleet's destruction with grim satisfaction. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "That's for attacking our home." Admiral Zhao's face appeared on the main screen. "Commander Chen, status report. Severe damage, but all personnel alive, Admiral. We're not going anywhere soon, but we held the line." "That you did, Commander. That you did." Zhao's expression softened slightly. "Your people fought like demons down there. Every member of your crew is getting a commendation. Hell, you're all probably getting medals once the politicians sort through the paperwork." Sarah shook her head. "We were just doing our job, Admiral." "Your job was supposed to be studying radiation patterns," Zhao said dryly. "Instead, you destroyed or crippled 7 alien warships and held off an invasion force with 16 people. That's considerably above your job description." She became serious. "But we need to talk about the bigger picture, Commander. This attack wasn't random. The Vactor Collective has been expanding aggressively for decades, and they clearly see humanity as an obstacle. This was a test, and we need to make sure they learn the right lesson from it." "Which lesson is that, Admiral?" "That humanity doesn't start fights, but we always finish them." Over the next several hours, as repair ships arrived to stabilize Erebus and medics treated the wounded, more information came to light. The captured Vactor soldiers, once they realized resistance was futile, began talking. What they revealed was disturbing. The Vactor Collective had been watching human expansion for 50 years, studying humanity's technology, military capabilities, and expansion patterns. They had concluded that humans would eventually become a major threat to their own territorial ambitions. So they had decided to strike first, testing human defenses at remote outposts to find weaknesses they could exploit in a larger invasion. Erebus had been chosen because it was isolated, lightly defended according to official records, and far from any major human military presence. It should have been an easy victory, proof that human outposts could be destroyed at will. Instead, it had become a demonstration of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn ordinary people into extraordinary defenders when threatened. James Park interrogated one of the captured Vactor officers, a strategic analyst named HFY. The alien seemed genuinely shaken by what he had experienced. "We studied your species for decades," HFY said through the translator. "We analyzed hundreds of human conflicts, predicted how you would respond to various scenarios. But we made one critical error." "What error?" James asked. "We assumed your warriors would be in obvious military installations, ships, fortresses, battle stations. We never considered that you would hide your most dangerous soldiers among civilian populations, disguised as researchers and engineers." James smiled coldly. "That's because you don't understand humans. We're not like other species. Every one of us can become a soldier if we need to be. Every farmer who picks up a rifle, every doctor who treats wounded under fire, every engineer who turns mining equipment into weapons. You didn't attack a research station. You attacked humanity itself, and humanity doesn't lose." The interrogation recordings were transmitted back to Earth, where military intelligence began developing new defensive strategies based on the lessons learned. If the Vactor Collective believed remote human outposts were vulnerable, it was time to show them how wrong they were. Within weeks, research stations across human space began receiving mysterious equipment upgrades and personnel transfers. Civilians with unusual military backgrounds started appearing in official records. Hidden defensive systems were installed under the guise of safety upgrades. The galaxy was learning a new truth. There was no such thing as an undefended human position. 3 months after the battle, Sarah Chen stood in the rebuilt command center of Research Station Erebus. The facility looked much like it had before, domes and tunnels housing scientific equipment and personnel quarters. But now, hidden beneath the innocent exterior, lay weapon systems, reinforced bunkers, and enough military hardware to make an invasion force think twice. Her crew had been offered transfers to more prestigious positions. Marcus could have taken a job with the Earth Defense Force's Engineering Corps. Nina had been offered a position in military intelligence. Tom had received invitations from 3 different special operations units. They had all declined. This was their home and they weren't leaving. Admiral Zhao visited personally to oversee the final repairs. She walked through the rebuilt sections with Sarah, noting the improvements and additions. "You know," Zhao said conversationally, "when you all requested this posting 3 years ago, I thought you were crazy. Who retires to the most remote station in human space?" Sarah smiled. "We weren't running away, Admiral. We were just tired. Tired of war, tired of violence, tired of watching friends die. We wanted somewhere quiet. And instead, you ended up fighting one of the most important battles in recent human history. The Vactor Collective has pulled back from our borders. They're not attacking any more outposts. We've intercepted their communications and they're terrified of encountering more stations like Erebus." "Good," Sarah said firmly. "Maybe they'll think twice before attacking humans again." Zhao stopped and turned to face her. "The galaxy is changing, Commander. More species are noticing humanity, wondering if we're a threat or an opportunity. What you did here sent a message louder than any diplomatic speech or military parade. You showed them that humans protect their own, that we fight smarter rather than just harder, and that underestimating us is a fatal mistake." She held out her hand. "Thank you, Commander Chen. Thank you and your entire crew. You held the line when it mattered most." Sarah shook her hand. "We just did what any human would do, Admiral. We survived." As Zhao's ship departed, Sarah returned to the observation window where this had all started. Jupiter still dominated the view, eternal and magnificent. The station's light still glowed against the darkness. Behind her, her crew went about their work. Marcus was already planning new defensive improvements. Nina was upgrading the communication systems. Tom was teaching some newly arrived personnel about the station's hidden capabilities. They were researchers again, scientists and engineers studying the wonders of space. But they were also warriors, ready to defend their home against any threat. Because that was what humans did. They built, they explored, they reached for the stars. But when something tried to tear down what they had built, they fought back with everything they had. The galaxy had learned that lesson at Erebus. Sarah hoped it would be enough to prevent future conflicts. But if it wasn't, if someone else decided to test humanity's resolve, there were thousands of other stations scattered across human space, thousands of other crews who looked like civilians but fought like demons. The Vactor Collective had wanted to test humanity's defenses. Instead, they had discovered that in human space there were no easy targets. There were only different degrees of difficult ones, and Erebus, the forgotten station on a frozen moon, had become a legend that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. A warning to any species that thought humans were weak: don't start a fight with humanity, because no matter how remote the outpost, no matter how small the crew, humans will always find a way to make you regret it.